Okay. Yeah, the bones of the beast, yes. Okay, let's get going. So basically you got your bucket here with its nice wide hole. It should actually be a little bit wider, I find. Another, like a notch on either side, I would say, for this sort of size container. Then you put, before I was cut off by the memory card running out, you put your paper tissue, this sort of thicker stuff, I'm not talking about toilet paper in this case, in there. And because you've got such a wide area there, it supports it, so it doesn't break through the hole at the bottom, so you don't lose all your sand at the bottom of the hole, so to speak. But I noticed with these buckets, so normally you would do a similar thing with the buckets sort of thing, but I noticed with these buckets you can get a number of colours. I prefer the nice blue one, but you can get these other ones. Oh, this one's broken. Aha, I've done my dough. I just noticed that. Oh, that could actually be me with the back of the boot, because it's not, of course, not what I'm used to. But if you notice the difference between where the 9 comes up there, 8 litres, 9 litres, you know, 8 litres, I don't know. Let me look at the monitor so I can make sure I'm actually showing that to you. Can you see that? Whereas on this one, the broken one, which I probably broke myself actually, it's different. So there are differences in the actual volumes of the bucket, so be careful of that. You want one of these where you get the actual full 10 litre whack there, so do watch out for that, because all my measurements are done what I'm used to, which are these 10 litre ones. So, but what I noticed though with these buckets is I think I can get away with 500 mils of bottomlands rhodium covering the top, I reckon, because look at, I'm used to it covering this quite comfortably. I reckon we can just about tease it out with that. So it's only going to be 500 mils in that eventually. Anyway, next thing is to get your sand, which we went out to get yesterday. So basically you want quartzite sand. In here, and first of all, you know, you get your, if we can get it there, you got your quartzite there, and then you just get a handful at a time. You put it on here, and you make sure you settle this thing so it doesn't move. You want to settle it down like that, and basically that's what you do. You very quickly start to fill this thing up. And of course, being a sort of flexible one, it will, the weight will put pressure on the sides, but also it will allow the roots of things like, well, this one I'm going to use it for rhubarb and rumex and all those cormous, bulbous and tuberous plants to, they also found, I think in the 1970s, that quite a lot of the Australian natives with their proteoid roots and related root systems like that like to be grown in plastic, you know, flexible plastic pots rather than solid, sturdy plastic ones. So I don't know if that helps with people overseas, but that was information gained here in Australia as far back as the 70s and maybe even beyond that. It became standard practice anyway, I should say, from the late 70s into the 80s sort of thing. It was probably actually worked out many years before that by CSIRO. I wouldn't be surprised. Or people, you know, people working at CSIRO. I think my old algebra lecturer, Wamsley, I think, my old algebra lecturer at Flinders Uni, I think he may have had some involvement in that movement as well. So, so it's just a little side anecdote if you're into that. Why I'm just burning up the megs on the car sort of thing. But I see, it doesn't have to be too wonderful, you know. Yeah, rhubarb doesn't have pretty flowers, so you're not aiming to grow rhubarb for the flowers. You're aiming to grow it for the so-called, in quotes, rootstock. It's a rootstock vegetable. They probably have a particular phrase for something like that. I've forgotten now what it is. You can look it up. But let's say rhubarb originally comes from Mongolia, of course, which is a Chernozem soil, which is basically a soil that becomes very rich because it dries out in the summer, and therefore you can't get the rotting down of the humus in the soil. So the humus builds up over the summer and doesn't have enough time over the winter to actually degrade before there's another load set down, sort of thing. And so, in other words, I think if I remember rightly, the Chernozem soils have the richest soils in the world, or at least some of them anyway. I think they have the highest the highest humus content of any World Series soil. So don't quote me on that, but you might want to look something up about that, about Cherno. They are very special soils. So if you can grow rhubarb with this, really you're making a connection between a high humus soil, well, peat is high humus, isn't it, in a way, and you know, between CP soil, CPs, and these Chernozem soils, that also leads back into terra preta, of course. And I think I might have brought up a way of how the natives actually could have simply made terra preta along these sort of lines, you know, something, you know, getting like 4 or 5 basic components that you could easily find and use, put them together and make yourself a terra preta. That actually gives the practical result, because I don't know if you've noticed this, I've noticed this, that all this burning of char and all this thing doesn't actually seem to give the results that you get from the actual native Chernozem soils. So sorry about that if that was dangling there for you. It hasn't, what do we say, it hasn't stood up to muster. You know, the general public out in the real world who are trying to take this knowledge on board because they think it's exciting, don't seem to be getting the results that you get from the actual natural soil. There's some sort of breakdown in understanding, research and communication between what's really, because I don't think they really know how they actually made it. They'd made this sort of like an assumption that it was all, you know, burning, you know, partly burning out. But I've got an alternative. From all this work here, I'm getting an alternative idea of what it might actually be and how you might actually make it. So yeah, so it I don't know, one more layer, do you think? Then I put the bottom landsodium on and then the charcoal. I reckon, yeah, another handful over the, I think that's about it. I think I'm doing it by eye, but you know, I've been potting up plants for, you know, playing around with peat and sand and all this thing for, you know, 40 years, you know, so, you know, I have built up some instinctive skills. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but you know, you do. If you do something fundamental that long and you spent, you know, you get some basic skills that probably other people may find very hard to do, that, you know, you just do them like that, but other, yeah, because you probably spent the early years of your life picking up these skills without realising it. So anyway, now we're going to wow, I've got some ants on this. Anyway, now we're going to put the bottomlands radio on, the good shit, and I think I've got enough here to do the top here with just 500 mils. I'm just going to crack the top, get it going, and then we'll get an even spread then. And I've got ants running up my arm. Oh, the other night when I was making some up, I had this inch ant that came and investigated it. So, you know, maybe the inch ants in my garden have realised, oh, he's making up the good shit. Send out the scout. He's making up the good shit. Anyway, so I'm going to end up just putting this. I'm just doing this one long demonstration because otherwise, one, you won't believe me. 2, it's good to have these things for historical posterity. Posterity? That doesn't sound right. I just think I've made up a word. Posterity. And yeah, as you said, the buffalo girls go round the outside. Oh, sorry, Ant. Oh no, it didn't hurt you. That's good. But and then you just go around the out. I'm starting to repeat myself, but you know. Maybe I should put it up there, if you can actually see it, and I'll come around here from the other side. I don't get my big noggin in the way, crowding out the, you know, trying to get it as best I can, you know, putting it on here. You just give it a, you know, knock, And yeah, I think it's better if I hold it actually. Yeah, I'll put the spoon down up there. Okay. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, I'm starting to develop my own little skills for how to do this, you know, with the spoon and everything. You do that, you know. And of course, then you'll convert to something else and you forget how, then you have to relearn everything. I've been there and done that with those sort of things as well, so, you know. So basically what you're trying to do is get like about a 2-inch surface, you know, sorry, a 2 centimetre or, you know, 2.5 centimetre, you know, roughly an inch basically. You know, the old imperial inch. As I said, you know, our inch ants are actually the imperial 2.25 inches in length, and people, you know, and they're, as I say, they're profanity. Oh, I've got some ants biting into me on my leg here. They're actually, you know, well, there's your green sand. I didn't quite mix it properly there, but your so-called green sand in North Carolina, you know, as I said, you know, the dot, you're starting to connect the dots and things are coming together, and you're starting to be able to explain things. And when you start creating things in your own backyard that you see online and overseas, you know, you think, oh well, okay, you know, that's the power of science. You know, I'm living in bloody Australia and I'm working out something that's been, you know, over in North Carolina, you know, without leaving my bloody deck chair or, you know, my my recliner chair sort of thing, you know, in a way, so to speak. But yeah. It's a long clip, I know, and it's probably a boring one for you, but you know, if you've never seen it before, you probably might quite believe what I'm going to do and how CPs is going to change, you know, the dream of, you know, just whacking a plant in, sitting back and getting the results you've always, you know, like every other bloody hobby, you know. Every society can grow the plants better than they do in the wild, sort of thing, except for CPs. You know, I don't think there's too many other hobbies I can actually think of or name where they have the same problems that we have in CPs, that you still can't grow the plants in cultivation as well as they do in the wild. You know, people are still going out to the wild scratching their head and thinking, oh geez, that's amazing, look at the colourway, look at the robustness, you know, and you're going out there, you know, people living in their own little areas of Australia or other parts of the world where they have interesting CPs, you know, Darling Tony or something, you know, someone up in Oregon sitting on their back porch looking at it, I've got this whole stand of Darling Tony, every bloody year it comes up and they're amazing, look how robust and tall they are, and it seems like they're living on nothing. Well, that's not quite true, as we'll find out over the next, you know, seasons and years as the story develops and comes out, the final story. And I bought a Venus flytrap yesterday actually to stick it out in the front yard along with a cape, so I thought, you know, have a bit of fun, you know, and we might get a few surprises, you never know. I don't expect the traps to stay red, you know, because of these commercial places. I don't know what they do with them, but it's one of the first things you know is the traps. The colour almost seems like it's water soluble. It almost seems like it washes out. I don't know. So is it? Is my way of thinking now in hindsight, thinking, you know, is it really the coloration on the plant, or have they been either spraying the plants with some sort of coloration to, you know, inducing purchase, or I'm buying the one with the nice big red traps. I don't want that one that's just got green traps. So maybe they worked out the well, you know, if you want red traps, well, we'll give you red traps. We'll fucking spray them with red fucking paint. No. But it definitely seems to be water soluble, whatever it is, and it seems to be wash out, you know. You put your nice red traps that you just bought from the shop. And there's also another thing that seems to be going on is some of them under the fluorescent lights of the shops you go in these days, they almost seem to be fluorescent. And you take them out of the shop and they also seem to be pretty, you know, bright. But over the next 2 weeks or so, they seem to lose this brightness. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've definitely noticed that over the last few years. Especially the yellows on things like, you know, Wrigleyana's and, you know, all those sort of Swaniana, those sort of Purpurea, Citacina, bloody hybrids they have there, you know, and with the bright yellow, reddy purple colours. They almost seem to, as I said, under the lights of the shops, they definitely look like they're fluorescent. Yeah, so yeah, it's always a bit difficult down the bottom of the pot. Okay, and I'm nearly there. I think we're going to make it. As I said, I've had the experience, so you know, you can judge things by a certain extent. And I've done these things before with the normal, as I said, the proper 10 litre, the 9 litre 2 gallon bucket, which is actually really 10 litres in size. And I said you can notice the difference between brands, and to watch out for that. Don't get stung like that. Well, I've just lost a 70 cent bucket because I can't put it right up to the brim sort of thing. But yeah, so. But just things to watch out for. If you notice that the red trap ones seem to lose their colour over about a 2-week period, and the colour also seems to be water soluble. It seems to wash out of the plant sort of thing. So yeah, I'm just filling up the gaps, fellas, you know, as you do. And let's just break this bit of sod up. It's got a bit hard, bit of green sand in there. So yeah. But that will settle down once the rains come. Once it goes, we had quite a lot of rain. I reckon we had about 4 inches the other night. All I need now is another 4 inches, I reckon, and I'll be ready to plant out the front. So hopefully the rains are coming tonight, and we might get down to it tomorrow or sometime on the weekend to actually blinding a cape out in the wash through Bottomlands road that I've got in the front yard, which will be interesting. I've already planted one in a test pot I did from last season sort of thing, and that's settling in pretty well, so you know, it bodes well for the actual science, you know. Yeah, things are working sort of thing, you know. It's not burning the roots off the plants, so you know. Anyway, I think that's about it. And we just I'll just push it in there, break that one up, break up the sod. Boy, I said boy, break that up that foghorn, leghorn sort of thing. Okay, well, I think that's about it, and now it's time to put some charcoal. Some I smashed up earlier, and I'll put my hand in and get a good. I want the semi-intermediate sort of grade, not too much fine stuff. So it's another skill of putting your hand in the bag and feeling around. You get your hand in the bag with the man, and yeah, and sort of, so you can actually leave the fine stuff at the bottom of the bag, but not get too many of these really big chunky bits. You might want to put a few of those really big chunky bits back and smash them up next time, sort of thing. But okay, so once the rains get through here, the idea is to then pull back a little area, dig back, put your rhubarb in, and hopefully sit back and just watch it grow. Because you know, if you go online, there's so much blurbage over the years, you know, going back to Victorian times about, you know, these Mongolian, outer Mongolian plants sort of thing being so bloody hard, and also not just hard but finicky about how they grow or where they grow, sort of thing, you know. If you go online and research some British history, talking about the rhubarb triangle, I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but it's some triangle in Britain where basically that's the only place where they really grow rhubarb really well. And they have some really interesting historical or classical ways of how they grow the rhubarb. You might want to look that up online, that's quite interesting as well. And I think I may have almost got rid of time to go into the other bag to finish off the pot. Yeah, I'm pretty organised. I thought, yeah, and one bag's not going to do it to get the size bits I want, so you know, feel around. I mean, those two pieces are a bit too big. They can go back, but I think you get my drift and see what I'm trying to do and where I'm heading, sort of thing. But, you know, the way I see it, I'll probably end up doing the in the Stuart McPherson series of books, I'll end up doing the ecology book. I reckon that's the way I do it. Robert will end up running his thesis or what do you call it? monograph. He'll end up doing his monograph on the genus Drosera through Stuart Macpherson, I reckon, and I'll end up doing, because that's what we said, I do the ecology and Robert would do the big monograph on the sundew sort of thing, on the Drosera, but on the genus Drosera. So I reckon that's what he'll end up doing, his monograph through Stuart Macpherson, and I'll end up doing the book on the ecology, because I'm the only one that can probably back it up with practical. This is going to turn out to be the practical evidence to show that yes, I do know what I'm talking about. It's just taken 40 bloody years to get to the answer, and because we've been playing around with a dud, well, partially dud theory, and well, there weren't any real scientists out there willing to put their hands up, because you're not a real scientist unless you're willing to put your hand up and say, oi, hang on.